Hello, 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 my friends, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another empowering week. Happy Monday, my friends. Thank you so much for being here today. Happy Monday, I hope you had a fantastic weekend, like this last weekend was a celebration for us as one of my nephews is celebrating another year around the globe, and we had an opportunity to go celebrate with him and spend some quality time with the family, and we got to see some family we haven't seen in a while. So it was indeed a beautiful time, so beautiful that at the end of the evening when we were just chilling back at home and relaxing, I had an amazing time to just to play with my grandson, and while we were just hanging out around the living room, right? And it was so amazing to see the interactions between him and one of our dogs. Our dog's name is Luna, and Luna is like a French tone. So cute, She's so cute and so adorable that what she does is, she sits by my side and she's just looking and waiting to see what happens. And my grandchild, he keeps coming and I'm going, and so he has this little basket of plastic fruits and watermelon, pineapple, and all that fun stuff, right? And lots of different vegetables. And he's very well organized. I mean, he's only two and a bit, and it blows your mind for sure. But he was grabbing the fruit and he was patiently coming up to my dog's nose, and he was like, "Hey, here, have some." And he would name the name of his toy, and he would be like, "Here, have some cheese," or "Here, have some corn," or "Here, have some whatever," right? And Luna would be just looking at him and looking at me like, yeah, I know, I get it, he's playing with me. So she would come and smell it and give it a lick, and then Mateo would just take it back and put it into his basket, right? So it was amazing, right, to see their interactions. So what happened is that I was observing, patiently observing. I was able to notice the beauty before me of what was happening, right? And that ties perfectly with the topic for this evening, the topic where I'm talking about not being impatient. Not being impatient, right? And as we need to understand that there is a process and a system and in a journey for everything that happens in life, whether we are in the middle of a storm, whether we're middle of the wilderness, whether we're in the middle of waiting to hear someone's reply, news, update, there's always a process for everything in between. More often than not, we run impatiently and we start getting anxious and we start getting a worry, in fact. But you see, my friends, the Word of God reminds us of something so beautiful right here on the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. And this is what the Word of God says. "And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." So beautiful what the book of Galatians reminds us, not to grow weary, And I also, while I was doing a little bit of the research regarding the Bible verse for this evening, I also came across in the book of James, which, by the way, I really also enjoy it. And I didn't talk about it today, and I'm probably going to go into more detail tomorrow about the book of James. But you see, in the book of James, chapter 5, verse 7, this is what the Word of God says. "Therefore, be patient, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmers wait for the precious fruit of the earth, waiting patiently for it until it receives the early and later rain. You also be patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand." You see, my friends, just like the harvest, also the farmer has to wait for that process to go in order before he can reap the fruit of his work. We, through everything that we go in life, we also need to endure that process and remind ourselves that we cannot eat a whole cake in one single bite. You know what I mean? We get so impatient and excited sometimes that things are happening right there, right? And you're just going and going. It's like, yeah, I got this, right? And you're running the race and you know things are looking so well ahead and there's so many potentials outcomes out of all of these. But then you know at that point, that's when we have to remind ourselves, that's when I have to remind myself to, whoa, slow down, pay attention to what's going on around, and enjoy the process. Remember to do one thing at a time, one task at a time, so I'm not being, my attention is no longer being diluted, diverted, but rather, laser specific, right, to what I'm doing and more strategic, and more effective, right? Rather than allow fear or desperation to come in between and trying to distract me with potentially other stuff. Maybe imposter syndrome tries to sneak by and trying to makes me second guess myself and doubt myself of the work I'm doing. Because, imposter syndrome is huge, man. If you ever heard of the term imposter syndrome, my beautiful bride, Elisa Perez, she talks a lot about breaking from these patterns from the subconscious mind, right? And Elisa, so if you are interested to know more, I will be tagging her on this video later on so you can watch and connect with her because, like I said, imposter syndrome is one of the things that can sneak by. But the way I see it, my friends, is putting it bluntly in one single word. If I had to condense all of that in one single word, I'd say fear. And I was just talking about my beautiful bride, Elisa, and she just jumped on the chat right now, the live chat. So hello, Elisa. It's so beautiful that you are here, my beautiful lady. But I was just talking about how imposter syndrome sometimes can sneak by, and as we're running impatient, as we're so excited for what's going on in front of us, or what the work that we're working on, or like I said, maybe we are in the middle of a temptation, or maybe we're in the middle of a storm, maybe we're in the middle of the wilderness. Everyone is so different, and we all face different challenges, different struggles, different things that we more often than not we feel like, oh my God, like I got 1,000 things to do, right? So my reminder for you, my friends, is do one thing at a time. Do one thing at a time, whether you're doing one reel at a time, hint, hint, my beautiful Elisa, where you are doing a post at a time, where you are doing something, but do one thing at a time and don't run impatient of what's happening. And I just want to remind you what the Word of God says. I know I already read this before, but for just so we have this very clear in our mind, very present, right? In the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, this is what the Word of God says. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. If we don't give up, in other words. So don't give up, keep on going, keep pushing forward, keep grinding, keep showing up, like my beautiful Elisa would say, right? Keep showing up. Show up for yourself. Show up and keep pushing forward. As you keep pushing forward, my friends, don't forget to reach up to God. Don't forget that He is right there with us through the entire process, through the entire journey, through the entire every moment of our life. We sometimes just get busy, being too busy, that we forget to reach up for His grace. We get too busy being successful that we may forget how we got there. So whatever the case may be, your case today, don't try to eat the whole cake in one single bite, my friends. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement, my friends. It's so beautiful to be here once again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I love you. We'll see you soon.